My wife cheated on me with our neighbor, then secretly forged my signatures to steal our $300, $0 house and $150, $0 in savings. Now she's accusing me of fraud while hiding the affair that nearly destroyed our family. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here I am. My wife was always the kind of woman who could turn on the charm and make anyone fall for her. She's beautiful, smart, and honestly pretty bitchy when she doesn't get her way. We've been married for 10 years, and until recently I thought we had a good life. Nice house, decent jobs, 2 kids who adore her. But all of that started unraveling the day I found out she was cheating on me with our neighbor Jake. It started with small things, becoming more secretive about her phone, disappearing for hours without explanation, and getting defensive whenever I asked about her whereabouts. I noticed she was wearing different perfume, more flirtatious when she thought I wasn't looking, but I brushed it off, telling myself she was just stressed or maybe looking to spice things up. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then came the night I decided to check her phone. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help myself. I saw a string of messages between her and Jake, flirtatious, suggestive, full of plans to meet up. The worst part, they'd been doing this for months. I saw texts about secret rendezvous, about how she loved the thrill of sneaking around, and even explicit messages where she described their sex as mind-blowing. My stomach turned. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started gathering evidence, screenshots, notes, anything I could find. I wanted to be sure before I blew everything up. But the more I looked, the more I realized how deep this went. They'd been meeting at her favorite boutique, at Jake's house, even at a hotel downtown. It was no longer just an affair. It was a full-fledged betrayal. What made it worse was that always played the victim. She'd lie, say she was just friends with Jake, that I was paranoid or jealous. She even had the audacity to tell me I was imagining things, that I was overreacting. But I knew better. I had the proof. And that's when the anger really started to boil over. One evening I decided I'd had enough. I confronted her. I told her I knew about Jake, about everything. Her reaction. She looked at me with this fake innocent face and said, "You don't understand, I was just bored. Jake's just a friend. You're overreacting as usual." She then started crying, claiming she didn't want to hurt me, that it was just a mistake she'd made out of frustration. But I could see the lies in her eyes. That moment hit me hard. I felt a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. How could she do this? How could she lie so easily? I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I wasn't just betrayed, I was completely. I'd always thought we had a solid marriage, but now everything felt like a lie. I looked at her, seeing the bitchy smirk she'd plastered on her face, and I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. Not really. The worst part was that she kept insisting she loved me, that she wanted to fix everything, but her actions told a different story. I realized I was caught in a web of lies and deception, and I didn't know how to untangle it. I felt so lost, so betrayed, and I knew that from that moment on, my life was never going to be the same. After that confrontation, everything changed. The house felt colder, emptier, like the walls were closing in on me. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. All I could think about was how I'd been lying to me for months, sneaking around, betraying everything we built. And the worst part, she kept denying the severity of what she'd done, acting like I was overreacting or making a mountain out of a molehill. That fake innocence she put on made me want to scream. I started noticing more signs. Her phone was always on silent. She'd hide her messages, and her behavior was just off. She'd leave in the mornings claiming she was going to work, but then come back late, smelling like Jake's cologne. I caught her in little lies here and there, but it was the big stuff, the affair, the forged signatures, that really shattered me. I found out she'd gone to the extent of forging my signature on documents to transfer our house and savings into her name. That's when I really started to dig deeper. I had access to the bank accounts, the mortgage paperwork, and I decided to review everything. What I found made my blood boil. She transferred our $300, $0 house into her name, forged my signature on the deed, and then drained our savings, about $150, $0, into some secret account she set up, all behind my back. I couldn't believe how far she'd gone to cover her tracks. I remember the moment I found the bank statements. My hands were trembling, my heart pounding. I saw the signatures that weren't mine, the transfers she'd made without me knowing. I felt sick. It was like she'd stolen my life, my future. And for what? A stupid affair with Jake. It was all so calculated, so cold. I realized she wasn't just cheating on me emotionally. She was trying to completely erase me from our life together. I confronted her. Again, furious. I told her I knew about the signatures, about the money. She just shrugged, trying to play it off like I was overreacting, saying, "It's just money, I was going to fix everything. You've always been so controlling." She looked at me with that bitchy smirk like she was proud of what she'd done. That moment I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative liar who'd do anything to cover her tracks, even if it meant destroying us both. But here's the thing, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I had evidence and I knew I needed to act fast. I contacted a lawyer, started looking into how to get our house back, how to freeze her accounts. I felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every day brought a new shock, a new betrayal, and I wondered how I'd gotten so blind for so long. The emotional toll was brutal. I'd loved, trusted her, and now I saw her for what she really was, someone capable of lying, cheating, stealing, and even forging my signature to steal our home and savings. I was angry, yes, but mostly I felt betrayed not just by her actions, but by the fact that I'd been so blind to her true nature. I kept asking myself how I didn't see the signs earlier, how I missed the clues, and why I ever trusted her with everything. As I sat alone in the quiet of our house, surrounded by the chaos of my thoughts, I knew one thing. I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with this. I had to fight for what was rightfully mine, for my family's future, and for the dignity she'd so thoroughly destroyed. The road ahead was going to be tough, but I was determined to find justice and somehow rebuild what she'd tried to ruin. The days that followed were like living inside a storm. I hired a lawyer, but even with legal advice, I felt powerless. She'd already forged the signatures, transferred everything, and drained our accounts. I knew I had to act fast if I wanted to stop her from completely wiping us out. The first thing I did was contact the bank and the title company to freeze any transfers and start the process of reclaiming our house and savings. But had already hidden her tracks well enough that I wasn't sure how much of it could be undone. Meanwhile, kept up her act. She'd come home pretending to be the innocent wife, acting like I was overreacting, accusing me of trying to ruin her. She'd say, "You're just jealous because I still look good and I still have my friends," with that bitchy smirk. She tell our friends I was being paranoid, accuse me of being controlling. But I knew better. I saw through her lies now. She was a master manipulator and she was trying to turn everyone against me. One night I decided I had to confront her directly about Jake. I found her texting him again, more flirtatious messages, plans to meet up. I was furious. I sat her down in the living room, pulled out the phone and showed her everything. Her reaction. She snapped at me saying, "It's not what you think, Jake's just a friend. You're always so insecure." She tried to gaslight me, claiming I was jealous and imagining things. But I knew the truth. I'd seen the proof and I wasn't going to let her lie her way out of it this time. That confrontation was the breaking point. I realized I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I felt a deep sense of betrayal by her lies, by her complete disregard for our family. I'd always believed in honesty and trust, but she'd shattered that. Now I was left picking up the pieces. I felt anger boiling inside me, mixed with sadness and a kind of numbness. How could she do this? How could she be so callous? I started to think about what I needed to do next. I couldn't keep living in this chaos in a house she'd stolen from me, with money she'd secretly drained. I decided to file for divorce, to get legal custody of the kids and to fight to get our house back. I knew it wouldn't be easy. She'd fight me, probably accuse me of all sorts of things like fraud or abuse, things she could use as leverage. But I was determined. I had the evidence, I had the truth, and I was ready to stand up for myself. The emotional toll was heavy. I felt like I'd lost my best friend, my partner, the person I'd trusted most in the world. The betrayal cut deep. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't let her win. I had to fight for what was rightfully mine, for my dignity, for my children's future. I kept telling myself that I would get through this, that I'd rebuild, even if it meant starting over from nothing. The pain was overwhelming, but deep down, I knew I had to stay strong. If I didn't, she would keep pulling me down into her web of lies and deception. And I refused to let her do that anymore. The legal process dragged on, and every day felt like a new battle. Was doing everything she could to drag things out, filing false accusations, claiming I was abusive or unfit as a father. She even tried to turn the kids against me, telling them I was the bad guy because I was trying to take everything from her. It was infuriating, but I kept my focus. I had the evidence of her forgery, her affair, her financial theft. That was what mattered. Meanwhile, I hired a private investigator to gather more proof of her ongoing affair with Jake. I needed to show that her lies about just being friends were bullshit. Watching her sneak around, sending flirtatious texts, meeting him behind my back, it all confirmed what I already knew. I also found out she'd been planning to buy a new house with Jake, using the money she stole from us. I couldn't believe her audacity. She lied, cheated, forged my signature, and now she was trying to leave me with nothing. One of the most surprising moments came when I discovered she'd been secretly recording conversations, probably to use as leverage. I confronted her about it, and she everything, acting all innocent, but I knew better. Her manipulative streak was so obvious now. She'd do anything to protect herself, even if it meant lying, cheating, or trying to ruin me. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry. I had loved her, trusted her, and she'd turned around and played me for a fool. Every time I thought I was making progress, she'd come back with some new lie or scheme. Honestly, it was exhausting trying to keep my head above water. I was constantly on edge, waiting for the next bombshell to drop. But I refused to give up. I started documenting everything: texts, emails, bank statements, the fake signatures. I wanted to be ready for the court. I knew she'd try to spin everything in her favor, but I also knew I had enough proof to fight back. The more I uncovered, the more I realized she'd been planning this for a long time. The house, the savings, even the way she'd been acting. She'd been setting herself up for a big escape, and I was the one left holding the bag. One night I sat in the dark, feeling the weight of it all. I'd lost my wife, my home, my savings, everything I'd worked so hard for. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I had to get out of this mess, not just for me, but for my kids. They deserved stability, not a mother who lied and cheated her way through life. I decided I'd fight to the very end, no matter how much she tried to manipulate or intimidate me. I was done being the victim. From now on, I was going to be the one who took control. Even if it hurt, even if it meant tearing everything apart, I had no choice. I had to do what was right, no matter how hard it was. The court dates came faster than I expected, and I knew was preparing her own version of events. She was spinning lies left and right, accusing me of everything from abuse to financial irresponsibility. She even claimed I'd been secretly gambling and hiding money, trying to paint herself as the victim. But I had the evidence: screenshots, forged signatures, bank statements, recordings, and I prepared myself to counter every lie she threw at me. When I finally sat in front of the judge, the tension was thick. Sat there with that fake bitchy smile, acting innocent, trying to look like the wronged wife. I could see the cracks in her. I laid out every piece of evidence I had: the forged signatures, the text messages with Jake, the bank transfers, the recordings. It was a detailed timeline of her betrayal, and I could tell she was starting to realize she'd overplayed her hand. The judge listened carefully, asking questions, scrutinizing every detail. I explained how she'd secretly stolen our house and savings, forged my signature to transfer everything into her name, and used the money to fund her affair. I told him that she'd been manipulating everyone, including the kids, and that her actions had caused irreparable damage. His face turned pale as I presented the evidence, and for the first time I saw her lose her composure. The courtroom erupted in a mix of reactions, Some of our friends and family looked shocked. Others nodded in understanding. I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. I knew the legal battle wasn't over, but I had made my case. I was finally stepping out of the shadow of her lies and taking back control. After the hearing, I went straight to the house to start the process of reclaiming what was legally mine. The house, the savings, the accounts, all of it was in limbo, but I was determined to get it back. I reached out to the bank and the title company to expedite the process of reviewing the fraudulent transfers. It was going to take time, but I knew I'd get there. Meanwhile, was furious. She started accusing me of everything, fraud, theft, even trying to ruin her reputation. But I didn't care anymore. I knew the truth and I had the evidence to back it up. Her lies were crumbling and I could see her desperation growing. She tried to manipulate the kids to turn them against me, but I stayed consistent. I told them the truth about what their mother had done, about the lies, the affair, the stolen money. The emotional toll was still heavy. I'd lost my wife, my home, my savings, and I'd been betrayed in the worst way. But I also felt a strange sense of liberation. I was finally fighting back, standing up for myself and my children. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was committed to rebuilding our lives. I had to focus on moving forward, no matter how much she tried to drag me down. I kept reminding myself that I deserved better than this, that I'd get through it, and that someday I'd find happiness again, without her lies and betrayal poisoning everything around me. In the end, everything I thought I knew about my marriage turned out to be a lie. Betrayal was like a punch to the gut that I didn't see coming, and the damage she caused, stealing our house, draining our savings, and lying through her teeth, left me feeling shattered. But as I sit here now, reflecting on everything, I realize that I've also learned something crucial. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to find the strength to climb back up. The legal battles are still ongoing, but I've managed to get some semblance of control back. The house is slowly being returned to its rightful state, and I've started rebuilding my finances from scratch. It's not easy, far from it. There are days I feel exhausted, days I want to give up. But then I look at my kids, at their innocent faces, and I remember why I fought so hard. They deserve stability, honesty, a father who's not broken by betrayal. I've cut out of my life completely. I don't recognize her anymore. The woman I married was kind, caring, and honest. The woman she's become is manipulative, selfish, and a liar. The hardest part was accepting that I had loved someone who didn't love me back, someone capable of destroying everything we built together. But I've come to accept that sometimes love isn't enough. Trust is everything, and once that's broken, it's nearly impossible to fix. Now I'm focusing on myself and my children. I'm going to therapy, working on healing the wounds and trying to learn how to trust again. I know I'll never forget what she did, but I refuse to let her define my future. I've learned to be more cautious, more aware of the signs I missed, and more determined to protect myself and those I love. Looking back, I wish I could tell other men in similar situations. Don't ignore the signs, listen to your instincts, and don't let betrayal destroy you. Sometimes the only way to survive is to fight for your truth and never let anyone steal your dignity. It's hard and it hurts like hell, but you can come out the other side stronger. As I close this chapter, I want to say this. I'm finally starting to see the light again. The pain will never fully go away, but I've learned that life can still hold hope, even after the deepest betrayals. I'm rebuilding, I'm healing, and I'm moving forward. And someday, I believe I'll find happiness again. Without lies, without betrayal, and without a woman who thought she could get away with everything.